Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's webinar, Find Your Perfect Night's Rest, Personalized Strategies for Stress and Sleep. I'm Dr. Owen Wiseman, naturopathic doctor who loves sleep almost as much as I love a very good espresso. And trust me, that's saying something. Now, if you're anything like me, you've probably had these nights where you lie awake thinking about everything from tomorrow's to-do list to whether you remember to lock the front door. And that is what we are here to fix today. So what we're going to do is in a moment, you're going to see the presentation pop up and you get to follow along. And if you do have any questions, all I would say is to take a moment and save that for the end as well. And without further ado, let's get started. So I just want to say a really quick thank you to Healthy Planet. We have over 500 of us registered to join tonight, which is an incredible amount of people. I think it really speaks to how stressed we are and how much we want to learn how to sleep better beyond the strategies that we are used to and we've tried already. So we're going to have about a 35-minute presentation tonight. We will have time for Q&A. At the end, we're going to talk a mix of products and strategies and a little bit of information. And I might even share a fun fact or two. So if you do have any questions, you can pop them into the Q&A and I will get to those towards the end. So wanted to say welcome. If this is your first Healthy Planet webinar, we're really excited to have you. These are great opportunities to learn. And tonight's story is actually going to be taking us over to Switzerland, which is where A. Vogel is actually based out of. And if you haven't met Alfred Vogel before, this is the gentleman himself. So A. Vogel was founded over 100 years ago in 1923 by Alfred Vogel, who was a pioneer and avid lover of nature, and he really championed the use of natural remedies in healthcare. And this is where he decided, I'm only going to use the fresh plants. That is one of the biggest things. We know the difference when we use dried herbs, dried oregano, dried sage in our recipe compared to going out and using the fresh stuff. And if you're lucky enough, maybe that fresh stuff comes from your own garden and you know the love that goes into growing that as well. And the products are scientifically researched. That's what makes it really easy for me to come on here, have a conversation with you, because there's all the data to back it up. In terms of our agenda for today, we're going to be having a conversation about stress and sleep, understanding the connection. We'll make a brief point about how it connects to immunity overall. It is September. It is cold and flu season. If you have grandkids, if you have kids, you know that if they're going back to preschool and kindergarten, they have become the plague factory as well. So we really want to make sure that we're actually looking into doing everything. Oh, full screen presentation mode. Let me just see. Let's see here. This is why we always have our technical issues here. We are going to reshare this. And that's going to be a little bit better, hopefully. So when we look at the importance of sleep, this is a really, really big conversation that we want to be having. And I'm feel free to put that, okay, I'm saying that's great in the chat. That's a little bit better, right? So let's kick things off by talking about how sleep and stress are basically the ultimate frenemies. They do affect each other in ways that make you wonder who's really in charge, your stress or is it your sleep? And spoiler, they're both trying to boss you around. So what is actually happening here? When you're stressed, your body is going to pump out cortisol. That's known as your fight or your flight hormone. And it's great if you're running from a bear or trying to meet a work deadline. But here's the thing. Cortisol also messes with your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. So while your brain is running a marathon of thoughts, your body's actually saying, nope, no more sleep for you. And here's the kicker, when you don't sleep well, your stress levels go up even more. So that's really creating this vicious cycle where poor sleep leads to more stress, which leads to even worse sleep, and so on. It's fun times. But don't worry, we are here to actually have a conversation and break that cycle as well. And when we look at what happens when you don't get enough sleep, which, let's be real, it does happen to all of us at some point. I have even found myself where you put that cereal in the fridge and the milk in the pantry and you catch yourself and go, wait, that's not right. So a lack of sleep, yeah, it does do that too, but it's not just little mix-ups like that. We know that chronic sleep deprivation can really start to mess with your body. Physically, it can suppress your immune system, which makes you a lot more prone to colds and infections. Not exactly a fun bonus. It can also lead to weight gain because when you're tired, your body's going to crave sugar and carbs like they're going out of style. And the lovely thing that we have called brain fog. Whether you're just wandering around trying to remember what day it is, mentally, the effects of poor sleep are just as significant. And lack of sleep can lead to anxiety, irritability, mood swings, those days where you feel like everything is just a little bit off. That could be your lack of sleep talking. So over time, that can turn into really severe health risks like high blood pressure, heart disease, and as we talked about, a weak immune system. But we know if we can improve your sleep, then we're going to actually mitigate a lot of these effects. So, a couple of fun facts. Humans are the only mammals that delay sleep willingly. A lot of animals are going to go, this branch looks like a nice place to lay myself out. But there is a gentleman, Mr. Robert McDonald, the man who achieved a remarkable feat by staying awake for an astounding 19 days. You heard that right. You can double check it on Guinness Book of World Records in 1986. He set that world record. He stayed awake for a total of 453 hours and 40 minutes. I had to write it down exactly, which captivated the world's attention. But they actually stopped tracking the record for sleep deprivation in 1996 because of how harmful it is for our health. We know that everything is interconnected. So when we're under chronic stress, when we experience short sleep, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or HPA axis, which is what this big chart is, kicks into action. So when cortisol is high over long periods, it's going to lead to what we call immune dysregulation. So essentially, your immune system starts to malfunction, becoming less effective at actually fighting off infections and responding to things that can actually help support our immunity. So this is why people under chronic stress with sleep problems get sick so much more often. And if you know anyone like that in your own life, you're probably thinking right now, they are sick almost all the time. So this combination, that vicious cycle. So if you're feeling run down, more tired than usual, constantly catching a cold, for me, when I am feeling like that, maybe it's going out and being in clinic 5 days this week and just seeing lots of patients and being around people who are not at their best. I'm worried about getting sick and I'm worried about feeling a bit run down. So I really need to look at strengthening myself. I need to pay attention to body aches. I need to pay attention to fatigue. And so we know when I have a weak immune system, that's going to affect the rest of my life. So usually at that point, I'll opt for something like a clinically proven remedy, like Echinoforce. There's 40 clinical trials over it. It's been around in the market for about 61 years, so it's a long time product, and it's safe for pregnant nursing. So at a time when the little ones at preschool and kindergarten are bringing home all the infections, we need something to help protect all family health. And what I really want you to do is just take a moment, and I'm not going to read these all out, but look at your own sleep habits. If you're anything like most people, you might be thinking, I actually am. I'm fine. I'm getting enough sleep. But when's the last time you really checked? So keep track of how many steps are you getting or how many emails are left unread. We know if we log in and we see our email, what often appears is there's 101 emails that are waiting for our attention. So here's a quick test. Do you wake up feeling refreshed, ready to take on the day? Or do you feel like hitting the snooze button 47 times? And if it's the latter, you're not alone. You might not be getting enough hours of sleep or even quality of sleep. So don't worry, you don't need to have perfect sleep habits right now. We are going to work on that as we go through this. Now, these are some of the usual suspects that love to sneak in and disrupt a good night's sleep. So waking up during the night, that sounds familiar, I'm sure, for a lot of us. That could be due to stress. That could be the late night snack that you thought was really innocent. For me, there's a great ice cream place around the corner. So when my family is craving a little bit of an ice cream and I go over, I know that sugar rush, I will be punished for it. But a hazelnut praline dipped cone, that's going to get me every single time. Or even something in your sleep environment, like noise or temperature changes. And I get it, there's nothing worse than waking up at 3 a.m. and wondering, why am I suddenly awake? And another reason that could be is racing thoughts. You finally hit the pillow and suddenly your brain, it's running a marathon. That's usually linked to stress or anxiety. And it can feel like your mind just doesn't really have an off switch. So don't forget about the sleep environment and put away the late night scrolling on your phone. Now, notably, natural melatonin is released into both the blood and directly into the brain. And several factors can affect the body's natural melatonin production, which include nighttime light exposure, the use of light emitting devices, advanced aging, medications like beta blockers, antihypertensives, and different medical conditions. And what this fancy graph is actually showing us right now is that we know that if you sleep well, you can actually reduce your risk of developing cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's, and a number of things that affect our cognitive health, our brain health, as we continue to age. So, if we can get ourselves into a good sleep routine, that's going to protect us for decades to come. And you might be thinking, well, that's great. I'll just pop all my melatonin. That's a sleep hormone. It's actually not meant to be a sedative. It is a hormone. Hormones influence and have indirect actions. So it can be really good for short-term situations like jet lag. That's great. If you have jet lag, it's great for resetting that circadian rhythm, which we'll talk about in a bit. Or age-related insomnia, where natural melatonin production, as we just said, does fall. I'm going to shock you a little bit here. The research, when you dive into the research on melatonin, the benefits are actually super modest. On average, it only adds about 4 to 12 minutes of total sleep time. So for everyone who is maybe on the call going, that's the only thing that's helping me, you might actually be a better sleeper than you think you are because the benefits for that maybe 3 milligram that you're taking are actually not great benefits. So we really want to focus on lifestyle changes. If we're just hoping to kind of pop one thing and call it a day, that's why we want to make personalized sleep plans today. So when it comes to improving your sleep, like I just mentioned, your environment plays a huge role. Light is one of the biggest cues for your body's internal clock. Too much light can keep you awake. Darkness signals that it's time to sleep. Temperature, that's another important factor. As your body naturally cools down to prepare for rest, that cool room is going to signal to the body, now it's time to sleep. It's why in the winter we just feel like kind of cozying up, getting a big blanket, and hibernating, really. Noise can be a really disruptive cue. So quieting your environment, I'll give you some tips for that after. Your bedding matters too. If your mattress or your pillows aren't comfortable, your body will struggle to fully relax. I've reached the point in my life where if I am traveling to a friend's house or we're going to stay with family, I bring my own pillow because I know I need it and it's great and it's a really nice pillow. So I want to make sure I'm getting the best sleep I can, even when I'm outside my own home. And then relaxing smells like lavender can signal to your brain that it's time to sleep. So that's what we're looking at. Keep it as dark as possible. Keep your room cool. And when I say cool, I'm talking about 17 to 19 degrees Celsius. And maybe you're sitting there with your bed partner and you're going, honey, the house is currently set at 21 overnight. I'm going to tell you, you might want to try just putting it down a little bit. Not enough to start an argument, but a little bit. Keep it quiet. Again, we'll talk about that a bit later. Invest in a supportive mattress and pillow. You spend a significant amount of your life on a mattress. So if it's 50 years old and you inherit it from your great aunt, you might want to consider getting your own at some point. And then, as I said, really relaxing scents can be such a benefit. Now, there's no one size fits all sleep solution. So, what works for me, maybe falling asleep to the soothing sounds of a nature app. I really like crickets overnight, might not work for you. So, maybe you need complete silence. Maybe you need a warmer room than I might suggest, and the world's comfiest pillow. Or if you're like a friend of mine, you need the TV on full blast with the latest episode of whatever true crime documentary is out. Not my style, but works for them. So, we kind of need to imagine how many hours do I need? What is right for me? Is it 7 hours? Is it 8 hours? Is it 9 hours? And you can kind of see where you fall on this chart for how many hours you need. So if you've tried generic advice like just go to bed earlier and it hasn't worked, do not be discouraged. You just need to find the right strategy for yourself. And that's where some herbal allies really come into play. So, a couple of my favorites are natural remedies that work with your body, not against it. And one of my new favorites is actually Lactuca sativa, which is just a fancy name for wild lettuce. And no, it is not the lettuce that you toss into your salad, but it does do something pretty amazing. And it's helping to calm the nervous system, making it easier for you to relax and drift off to sleep. Another hero herb is lemon balm, which is one of the most common herbs around. It has this really incredible ability to soothe the mind, help your body enter a more relaxed state. Maybe you drink it as a tea. So when you're feeling wired or anxious before bed, these herbs can really, really make a difference. And the best part is the natural remedies actually work with the body's circadian rhythms. So it's going to help you fall asleep more naturally without that kind of groggy, almost drunk feeling that you might have the next day. Now, wild lettuce, it played a really important medicinal role in ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. And the main active substances in those are known as lactosylpycerin and lactucin. And those are going to support a deep restorative sleep. This is new to Canada. There is no other product that actually contains wild lettuce on the Canadian market right now. So, one thing that is really exciting is with my own patients who struggle with sleep, and we have tried a whole bunch of different interventions, I have a new option. I have a new approach that I can take with them. And when they're telling me, look, I've tried everything, Dr. Owen, I'm not taking that, I say, hey, this is new. You actually haven't tried it. So I've got some really good results so far, and I'm just hoping that those continue because it's non-addictive, safe for long-term use. It offers a natural alternative to synthetic sleep aids. So Zopiclone, Trazodone, the new kid on the block, Dayvigo, Lumberexant, you can kind of consider, well, maybe I need to have a conversation with my care provider about different options. Lemon balm, kind of talked about it a bit. Really helps calm the nerves, promote sleep. And based on meta-analyses, I'll show you, meta-analyses is a really, really high quality research trial, scientific trial. And it actually improved mean anxiety and depression scores when we compared it to placebo. And it also acts as an antioxidant. So that's really important because as we age, our body is constantly fighting back against what we call oxidative stress. And the way I want you to think about that is kind of a smoldering in the body. And we know if something's smoldering, it's not going to burn it down right away, but eventually that foundation will collapse, just like with our own body. The other one is passion flower. I really, really like passion flower when it comes to helping with those anxious thoughts as well, especially during the day. So if we're sitting there feeling really anxious about everything that we have to do during the day, this can be a really phenomenal option as well. Now, earlier I mentioned there's this new kid on the block. We call it Lactuca. So that is one of the main medicinal ingredients in this new product called Goodnight. It's a sachet format, which I really like because you just kind of tear off the sachet and it's a powder. It says chewable granules. I just put it in my mouth. I don't sit there chewing it. I kind of like holding it in my mouth because then as the enzymes like amylase, salivary amylase in my mouth start to act on the little granules, they're going to break them down and they'll actually get absorbed into the lining of my tongue and my mouth. So they'll have a pretty immediate action. It does say take an hour before bed. I have found personally that it hits me within about 5 to 15 minutes, and I go, I need to ride this wave into oblivion tonight. So it really is intentionally formulated to support that entire circadian rhythm. Because our circadian rhythm, it's heavily influenced by light and darkness. And during the day, exposure to natural light tells your brain to stay awake, stay alert, release cortisol. But as the day fades into night, darkness is going to signal to your body to start producing melatonin in the body. And that hormone that's going to help you fall asleep. But meanwhile, we know that if your circadian rhythm gets affected, that's going to affect your energy, that's going to affect your mood, that's going to affect your overall health. And if that cycle gets disrupted, whether from poor sleep habits, shift work, too much late night screen time, you're going to notice all those side effects of poor sleep that we chatted about at the beginning, including weight gain, fatigue, brain fog, the works. In terms of support through the whole night, so there's four main ingredients in that product. It's L-tryptophan. L-tryptophan I absolutely adore because it is the natural precursor to melatonin. So L-tryptophan, if you have that, it will convert to melatonin. It's like having the ingredients of a recipe. You don't just snap your fingers and a whole pot roast appears on the stove. You got to put some work into that. You got to put some ingredients into that. And that includes L-tryptophan, which will convert to melatonin. Magnesium, muscle relaxant, maybe you already take it before bed. The little bit extra that's in here, you could combine those two and see what happens. Lemon balm and lactuca, we talked about those. Both of them are going to influence GABA. GABA is the hormone in the brain. It's the one that tells our brain, calm down. It's okay. Go to sleep. We're all good. And we know that lemon balm and lactuca are activators of GABA. They help lull us to sleep as well. But there's other things we need to consider, some other mindfulness tips as well. And some of those tips You don't need hours of free time or a yoga retreat in the mountains. These are simple things you can do anywhere, anytime, help manage stress. First up, deep breathing exercises. I want you to do it right now. Take a deep, slow breath. Drop the tongue from the palate and breathe in through the nose. Hold and out through the mouth. We're going to do one more actually. In through the nose and out. You feel calmer already. This is one of the fastest ways to calm your nervous system. When you take slow, deep breaths, it signals to your body you're in a safe space. You can relax. When you're sprinting away from a bear, you're not taking long, slow breaths. You're taking short, fast, rapid breaths to drive that oxygen into the muscle so you can continue to run. So those sleep or slow, deep breaths, combine the two, the slow, deep breaths signal to your body, I don't need to run. Everything's good right now. So if you're sitting there, take that with you. Hold for 4, exhale through your mouth. Do it a few times. You'll feel the stress start to melt away. Physical activity. If you run, if you exercise, if you move your body, if you get in the garden, exercise releases endorphins. Those make you feel good, reduces stress levels. A quick walk outside, especially here in Canada, where nature's beauty tends to be just a few steps away, that can do wonders for reducing stress. So visualization, you can kind of see on the right here, these folks have made a visualization board. There's a lot of words on there, photos, deadline, font type, graphics. Maybe they're in graphic design, I don't know. But visualization is a great way to sit down and get what's up here onto paper. Journaling, writing down your words helps organize thoughts and reduce anxiety. Because if you're holding everything up here, it's a whirlwind. So if you can take it and put it on paper, now you can look at it from a different angle. Grounding techniques, engaging the five senses. We'll talk about that in a second. But if you still go, I'm doing all of that and it ain't working. Well, now you're maybe looking at something like a product that does help melt away the stress. That is Relax Spray. It's Canada's first botanical, so plant-based anti-stress spray. When I was giving a big presentation last week on Friday, I definitely was using this before going out. Live speaking, it's just at that added layer. Not that this isn't live, but when everyone in the audience is looking back at you, you've got 100 people in the audience all facing you. It's a little stressful. So the Relax Spray is definitely a good one for me. I recommend it a lot to my teen patients because they're going into a really stressful period of their time, puberty, changing school, trying to get ready for university applications or post-secondary applications, or maybe going into a co-op or an apprenticeship. Those are all stressful situations. So if you give them this option, they can use it as much as they want throughout the day. It's portable. It is under 100 mils, so you can take it on a plane. So if you are an anxious flyer, a nervous flyer, that's a great option to take and spray away. And yes, you can combine it with the wine if you're flying porter and they offer it to you. Sleep-friendly food and drink. We've talked about magnesium, we've talked about tryptophan, we've talked about teas. We know what they do, but with magnesium, that's really concentrated in things like leafy greens, almonds, bananas. I'm not expecting you to sit there chewing on some lettuce leaves or some kale leaves before you go to bed, but maybe a handful of a couple of almonds, the protein, low glycemic choice will help keep your blood sugar regulated throughout the night. That may be a choice for you, unsalted. Tryptophan, we always think of turkey, but eggs, nuts, seeds, tart cherry juice, unsweetened. Again, that is high in tryptophan. What does tryptophan do? We talked about that. Tryptophan converts to melatonin in the body, helps you along with sleep. Now, color. We talked about this. Light plays a big role in our circadian rhythm. Warm lighting, akin to the hues of a setting sun, kind of like I have on myself right now, can cue our internal clock that it's time to wind down. That's going to mimic the natural decrease in light at dusk. That's going to enhance the body's production of melatonin, the hormone responsible for sleep. Conversely, exposure to bright, cool-toned lighting, especially the blue light emitted from screens or the god-awful fluorescent lights, can disrupt melatonin production, and that's going to delay sleep onset. So understanding and really optimizing that sleep exposure can really improve your sleep hygiene. That's going to help align our biological rhythms with those environmental cues. So if you do have those light bulbs, that you have the two different lighting modes, maybe they're super fancy and you can pick a color that you want them to turn. I always recommend keep them white and light during the day if you need that extra bit of light. But then as the night turns to dusk, really start to use more of those warmer hues that aligns with the body and it reduces stress. Noise. I said earlier, I really prefer some nature noises before bed. The three main ones, there are arguably others, but white, pink, and brown. So first we have white noise. This is the one most of us are familiar with, has an equal intensity across all sound frequencies. So it masks sudden sharp noises that might wake you up. Think of it like, what did I say? Static on a TV or a whirring fan. So it's a great choice for light sleepers or people who live in noisy environments. Next up is pink noise. That one has a bit more balance. It's softer in the high frequencies and actually louder in the low frequencies. So it makes it sound a little more natural, kind of the sound of steady rainfall or rustling leaves. So that suggests that pink noise can help promote deeper sleep by reducing brainwave activity, which makes for a really easy time for the body to actually fall asleep. Then we have brown noise. So brown noise goes even deeper into the frequencies than pink, really a big emphasis on low frequencies. Think of it like distant thunder rumbling or ocean waves. Brown noise is really ideal for people who like a low bass-like sound to help them relax and unwind. I love the rumble of a thunderstorm, so I am equally as attracted to brown noise as I am all of the others. Whether you prefer the steady hum of white noise, soothing tones of pink noise, or really those deep calming, there's something for everyone. So you can kind of play around and listen to a couple of these. YouTube has these great 8-hour channels, and you can run these sounds all night as well. And they are ad free. That's the other thing. You don't want to be jumped awake at an hour after you get down to sleep with a new Toyota commercial or whatever the new car is. Music, neurochemistry and music. This is something that's really interesting before bed, kind of as you're in your bit of your sleep routine. So what we know is that music can enhance the neurochemical release, the chemicals in the brain. It can activate the pleasure centers of the brain and make you feel good. If you've ever sat in the middle of an orchestra hall and that music hits you, I mean, you feel it. It's a visceral reaction. Promotes the secretion of antibodies, enhances immunity. So putting on some soothing music before bed or some natural tone, some spa music, that's another option that you have. Grounding. Grounding engages all the senses. It is a mindfulness technique that really focuses on engaging all five of those. And it helps slow the mind, reducing stress, helping you relax. And the way that I do it with my own patients is the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. I get them to engage their senses by going, all right, here's how it works. You're going to start by identifying 5 things around you that you can see. And maybe you want to do this right now: lamp, pen, mouse, microphone, computer, you. 4 things you can feel. Okay, maybe it's the texture of a wooden shelf right beside you. Maybe it's the texture of a piece of glass, not the sharp end, soft, soft glass. So 4 things you can feel. 3 things you can hear. I can hear the hum of traffic slightly. I can hear the feedback of my own voice in the microphone. And I can hear a little bit of the wind rustling in the trees. 2 things you can smell. I made a pot roast earlier, so I can still kind of smell the oregano and the thyme that were in that. And a little bit of a coffee smell. Someone must be making decaf in the house. And one thing you can taste. Don't go licking things around you, but maybe it is the taste of your own tongue. Maybe it is the beverage that you just enjoyed. So what I really want you to do is think, how do I put all these together? There are other options that A. Vogel has as well. VenaForce is this very, very gentle, what we call Nervine. So if you're someone who doesn't go, I'm not full-blown anxiety, I just do find every day is a little bit more stressful than it needs to be, then maybe you start using the VenaForce tincture. It's oat straw. Just like when you have burns, you can apply an oat poultice to the burns to help a very, very clean one. But an oat tincture can be really, really good for just calming the nerves a little bit more gently. If you're sitting there going, I have severe insomnia, I need all the help I can get, then that's where valerian comes in. So valerian is one of the strongest sedative herbs on the market. When we met Herbal Allies, valerian is definitely one that um, it doesn't win its reputation by its smell. It smells a little bit like dirty socks, but it works profoundly well. So if you have really, really bad insomnia, then you might consider something like valerian. There's a reason they call it deep sleep. This one has a clinical trial on it, and it improved deep sleep by about 25% after just one night of use compared to a control group. So, in terms of the spectrum, if you are struggling almost every single night, you might need something really deep to just help you reset the clock. That could be valerian, the deep sleep. If you're moderate for someone who's struggling 3 to 4 times a week, I really like a protocol of resetting my patient's clock. So I'll typically recommend one sachet of the good night every single night for 7 nights, good sleep or bad sleep. And then I want you to use it one every other night. So that'll be a total period of 3 weeks. I find that really helps them reset their sleep schedule. So if you come back from a big trip and you've crossed some time zones, maybe you need a total reset on your clock just to help your own melatonin production kick in the body again. And then mild. So I really like relax brain during the day for daytime anxiety in patients, but also when you wake up around 4 a.m. and you're sitting there going, I don't need to be up until 5:45. Now is not the time to take a sedative. If you take a sedative at 4 a.m. and you have to be up in an hour and a half, that doesn't really make sense. You're going to wake up extremely groggy. So you typically need something to relax the body and mind, calm those racing thoughts that's going, I just need another hour. And that's where something like the relax spray, you could keep it in your bedside table. So, in summary, when you are customizing a plan for yourself, I want you to use some of your favorite mindfulness techniques that we talked about today: journaling, visualization, grounding. Pick any that you respond to, deep breathing. You can add in good night sleep sticks to really help support the entire sleep cycle, or something like deep sleep for when you need a deep slumber now. I want you to experiment with different sleep sounds. They can really help mask those noisy neighbors. Maybe you need a deep, deep brown sound, big, deep rumble to cut out all the city noises, or maybe you go for some pink noise. You need to protect yourself from cold and flu season. You need to choose science-backed, researched products like Echinoforce. You need to use stress management techniques. We talked about a few of those already. You need to get your sleep environment ready. Maybe that's some lavender essential oil. Maybe that is new blackout curtains. If your spouse right now is thinking, oh gosh, now we have to go shopping for blackout curtains, you go, darn right we do. It is my sleep, and it is the most important thing that we have. So I want to thank you all for attending tonight as well. It's a lot of information. We will open up the chat for questions as well. And if you were sitting there going, oh, I really, my Healthy Planet is closed right now, but I want to remember what these were. If you actually scan that code with your phone, you can pull out your phone and you should hold it over that little QR code, and you'll actually see a little link appear, and you can click that link and it'll take you right to Healthy Planet as well online. And that way you can kind of get yourself moving and get everything together as well.